Hey, everybody, welcome to today's I'm Crushing It in My Business case study. And we have Bianca Osbourne here, and she is a professionally trained private chef. And I'm so excited to dive into her business because she's doing something really different with her education and her passion than I think most of us are doing. And I know that I learn best by example, and so I asked Bianca to really give us the nuts and bolts, the behind the scenes view of how she was able to move to Toronto and within just 3 months book herself solid. So welcome, Bianca. So happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this.
So let's get started. Why don't you just tell everybody a bit of your background, a bit of your story, and then we'll get the ball rolling.
So I'm a professionally trained private chef, as you mentioned. I'm also a certified holistic nutritionist. And so I went to culinary school first and did the 2 years and loved it, and then worked in restaurants and all of that. But then I kind of felt like there was something missing in my own life personally because I was really unhealthy. I was like, I'm a reformed party girl, so I knew I just needed to get my act together. And so I decided to take all of the culinary aptitude that I gained and apply it to nutrition. And so I studied nutrition online. And I just noticed, especially in Edmonton, where I am from, I live in Toronto now, I noticed that there was a gap. There's people that were getting interested in healthy eating and wellness, but didn't really know how to connect the two dots. And so that birthed an actual brick and mortar kitchen in Edmonton, but then from that birth, this private chef business, working more one-on-one with families to create custom programs that support them. Because everyone's different,
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's dive into that because I know there's a lot of people in my community who are who've gone through like Megan Telpner's program, the culinary nutrition program, who have studied culinary nutrition, who want to do cooking workshops and all of that stuff. So give us a high level overview of what your business looks like. How do you actually take in money? And then we'll dive in and go from behind the scenes.
So I take in money for the private chef portion of my business. So it's me going to people's homes and preparing food for them. So private chef gets confused. Some people think it's just going and cooking for parties or one-off events. My business is a little bit different in that I go to people's houses and make food to support them through the week. So that is one level of my business. I also do meal plans for people. So I just come up with recipes within their, dietary guidelines and then deliver it to them. But that also creates a third box, which is cooking classes. So it's an upsell from the meal plan. So it's actually going into their homes and helping show them how to make it work in their lives. Because again, so often people get meal plans delivered to them and they're kind of like, what do I do now? So it's sort of bridging the gap again between them getting the materials and them being successful. So those are the 3 chunks of how I make money. And I collect money, like I'm a big advocate of Stripe. I take email money transfers. I try to make it as easy as possible to get the money right in that first conversation because you want to get people when they're excited. So generally I intake people. So what happens is we get on the phone, we talk about their allergies, their aversions, what they're looking for, what they need, and if I can be the best person to provide that. Because quite frankly, some people are best going to a service like Fresh City Farms. It's more affordable and it's sort of just entry level. But my service isn't necessarily entry level. So we go over, all of that kind of stuff. And then I give them the price. I say, are you ready to book in? I usually have a date in mind when I talk to someone, like, are you ready to book in for next Tuesday, next Thursday? They say yes. I say, I take, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, or we can do an email money transfer. And then that sort of like gets the process going.
And does that fee for the private chef like coming into their home, do you do it as like single one-offs? Do you have session like packages? Does it include groceries?
So what I like to do is listen to the client before I decide whether they're hourly or flat rate, because you can get yourself into trouble if you do flat rate and you're there for a really long time. They add things. It's hard to get to that place. Like you don't really account for those things in flat rate. Flat rate is just, we have food here. We went to Costco. Can you come and cook it and just make magic with it? I'm just in and out. So that's a flat rate, but it's usually hourly. So hourly plus the cost of groceries. If I have to pick up groceries, I also tack on an hour to the regular like hourly minimum. And I always suggest to people to have a minimum, because I've spoken to, people that are trying to build private chef businesses, and they're like, well, I do it hourly, but I'm only there for 2 hours. And it's like, you got to have a minimum regardless of how long you're there for. It's more of a value base as opposed to just like hourly based. And I think that as far as like structuring the business, like going back just quickly, I had a brick and mortar wellness kitchen where we did prepared meals, cooking classes, and all of that. And so you have to, when you're trying to compete with the Fresh City Farms and the Good Foods and the Chef's Plates, you have to sort of cap what you can pay. But when you deliver the customization, the personalization, making meals that are completely tailored to someone else, you have to account for that. Account for the meal planning, account for the grocery shopping, account for your transit costs or your gas costs. Like everything has to be baked in. So when you have your hourly rate, you can just, like, the clock is just ticking. So it's like, if it takes you forever at the grocery store, it's not like, oh my God, we're elapsing into what I've already charged them as flat rate. It's just, it keeps going. And then what I do, because I am quite booked, I take a 50% deposit that usually covers most, if not all, of the groceries. And then 50% plus the cost of those groceries is invoiced once the service is rendered.
And so 50% deposit would account for how many hours? Are you
So my minimum
approximating it?
hours is 4 hours. So that's
Okay.
my minimum. So I always take the 50% from the minimum.
Oh, got
And
it.
if I'm doing flat rate, then I take 50% of just that flat rate. But I'll be honest with you, I don't do flat rate very much anymore.
Because why?
Because no job is ever really that easy. And
Right.
the thing is like when I had my own kitchen, I knew exactly where everything was. I knew how it worked. I knew if there was hot spots. I knew that, the fridge was clear and I could have space just to put things in. I didn't have to find Tupperware. Like all of those things end up elapsing so much time. And groceries, I live in the GTA, so I'm literally hauling ass across the GTA with groceries. And it's like that counts for something.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, if it's hourly, it's like you pay the hourly minimum, but if I'm at your place for 6 hours, you'll see that on the final invoice, because I'm not I love my job, but I'm not doing it for free.
So with that statement, I'm smiling and I'm listening to you, and I feel so proud as a fellow woman business owner to listen to you speak. And I'm wondering if there was ever a time where you undervalued your services, because a lot of people want to do what you do, or even they just want to do, higher end one-off nutrition coaching, fitness coaching, private yoga instruction, Pilates. And they think, well, people won't pay for that. It's too expensive. People won't pay. Was there ever a time that you felt like that? And how did you overcome it?
Totally. I felt like when I had my it was called the Vitality Kitchen. When I had that, I felt kind of like impostery because I was young, only 26. And I was kind of just like, who's going to believe that I'm actually a businesswoman? And I think that mentality actually makes you do really detrimental things for your business in the long run. Because what happens is you value yourself low, and then you're always in the low end. If you want to be high end, treat your business high end from the beginning. So price high. There's some people that are going to just, they self-select. They'll look at your pricing and be like, no, this is not for me. But if it's not up there or you're undervaluing, there's someone who would pay maybe $150 more, but because you're so low, they're like, okay. But then they'll always look at your service as just this very
ho-hum. Yeah,
ho-hum, not throwaway, but just not a high-end valued business. And so when I transitioned out and started building a private chef business in Edmonton, I was very clear on where the people that I wanted to work with were, how much my time was worth. I actually sat down and wrote like, this is the amount of clients, this is the amount of money that I want to make. And I worked backwards, because then you can see like, you know, if there is someone, because I do have people who come to me and say, you know, my mom is sick with cancer. We don't have a huge budget, but we really want some support. So when I have my numbers and my number game really on point, I can see if I can swing in something like that, that's more just from a place of like heart-centeredness and just wanting to help. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know if you can do that kind of charity, right?
So where did you learn that? Like, how did you make that switch for yourself? Was there like a course, a program, a book, something?
It's actually my stepdad. My stepdad has always said that I undervalued my services, but I'm stubborn too. And I was just like, I just want clients. I just want this business to succeed. And then finally, when I was starting to come around and like being really burnt out from working for all these people, because it had to be a volume play as opposed to a like, you know, quality play in terms of clients. And he finally said, are you ready to sit down and just talk about actual numbers? Because I was afraid of numbers. I mean, a lot of women are afraid to talk about money. It feels uncomfortable, but like you have to. If you don't focus on it, it just turns into a shitstorm behind the scenes. And so that was what I ended up doing, was just like listening to my parents, which is hard to say sometimes. Right? But that was the shift.
But clearly you were ready for it. And one of my business coaches said to me, money alleviates pain.
Totally.
Completely.
Right. Well, and also I had a moment, and it was, I transitioned out from my old business. I was so lucky someone took over my lease. Like it was like blessed in that way. And so I transitioned out, and it was like the new year, and I was like, I don't want to be broke anymore. I don't want to have this business and like people thinking, oh, wow, you are doing so well. But really behind the scenes, I have like no money, ends aren't meeting. Like I didn't want that anymore. And that was really another shift where I was like, I just don't want to be broke anymore. Simple.
And so what brought you from Edmonton to Toronto?
I just wanted to move here. It's a bigger city. It's a city that it's already so much going on within this space. If you know what you're doing and you grind and hustle, as the word that you love to use, you can find clients very quickly in a city like this because people get it. The infrastructure is already there. I also have a huge legion of friends that live here. It's like Edmonton East, I call it, because there's so many Edmontonians here. So it just was an easy decision. And because I was a private chef and I didn't have a location that I had to sort of keep up with, I was like, why not?
That's amazing. And I think that's part of the dream for all of us, is to be able to be like location independent, where you can, pick up and move to a degree, and reestablish yourself. So tell me, what was the first thing that you did to establish your brand and to build up your audience when you got here?
So the first thing that I did, and this was even before I moved, is I reached out to anywhere that would have me for a free workshop. And I have like a signature workshop. It's Meal Planning 101, the 10 pillars of meal planning success.
Love it.
And so when I go and talk to people about meal planning and I'm going over the 10 steps, there's people in that group that are like, yes, I will do the 10 steps. But throughout that 10 steps, I'm talking about when I go to clients' homes as a private chef. And so again, they're self-selecting throughout this hour.
Yeah, you're seeding your offer. Yeah,
I'm just seeding my offer. And then by the end, people are like, how can I hire you? How can I work with you? I give out handouts that aren't the handout of the day because I want their emails, but it's just sort of like a postcard with all my information. It's got like pictures of the food that I make, some information about the services. But to get the workshop content, they have to give me their email, and then that's when the like sell really happens. But a lot of times people like come to me and they're like, do you have openings next week? Can I book in? It's very quick that way. So that was the first thing that I did. The second thing that I did was online. Was I joined all of the neighborhood community groups and mom groups of like where I wanted to work. And then just followed their guidelines of days you can promote. And I just come up with like, my business is very visual. I take pictures of everything that I make pretty much. And so I just use that to get attention and just say what I do. I mean, I am truly the extra set of hands that most moms and sometimes dads are looking for in the kitchen. So I phrase it like that, and that gets people's attention. And then they ask for more information. Again, the self-selection process starts because I email them about information, about rates, and it's either too much or it's just right. And then the relationship goes from there.
Yeah, like you're not chasing clients. It is what it is, and they self-select.
And I've had to fire clients in the short 3-month period that I've been here. There's been some clients that I've gone to their house once and it just didn't feel like they were honoring what I was doing for them as much as I felt, I was being of value to them. And those people I just don't work with again.
Right.
Because
And so what does that look like? So I know it's a feeling, but what does that look like? Because I know a lot of people, when they're starting to establish themselves, even though you already had a pre-existing business, you're new here, you're starting to establish yourself. We just, we want to do a good job for everybody. We don't want to have like a bad review. We want to make sure that word of mouth. So share with me just some examples of what that felt like or what those experiences were with the clients and actually how you went about firing them.
So I'll give you 2 examples. One was a woman who I think was a little bit confused about what a private chef was. And she just like came home and like dropped her 18-month-old off and was like, can you watch her for 20 minutes? I just need to run and get a blowout. And like left before I had a chance to be like, no. So that I just, at the end of the day, usually I like try and like phone them because sometimes it's hard to have those conversations in the moment. But in that moment when I was done and she was home, I said, thank you so much for having me in your home. Really appreciate it. But I think what you're looking for is more of a nanny / meal prep person. If you need any suggestions, I'll keep my ear to the ground for you. But, thank you very much kind of thing. She was kind of like, but like there was an entitlement piece on that one for sure. That I was kind of just like, I'm not dealing with this.
No.
And then there was another client who, so before I go into anyone's house, I send them like the day before a reminder that I'm coming tomorrow. So leave me the garage code, leave the key at the concierge, leave the back door unlocked, whatever, just make sure I can get in. And I also highlight things. So please make sure there's room in the fridge and freezer for the food. If you can you please, highlight where the Tupperware and all the things are. If you're not going to be home, pull some out or just leave the drawers open so I know where they are, kind of things. If you could empty the dishwasher so I have room to put things into the dishwasher to facilitate cleaning up. But I had this one client that every single week it was something with the door. It was something with the kitchen. It was like the kitchen was a mess when I got there. So I had to clean and cook. And so I was just like, you're not respecting me. I mean, I respect your space because when I come into it, I do what I do and I leave it the way I found it, sometimes even better. But you can't even do me the respect of preparing for my arrival. So it's just like, I'm going to fill these spots with someone who's going to have a little bit more respect for me.
That's amazing. And so are you doing anything to cultivate the mindset that you have now? Because I know a lot of people are going to listen to this and they're going to think, oh my God, like, how do I get that strong? How do I get that faith that like I can fill the spots or whatever? So are you doing anything from like a mindset perspective to have that confidence?
I do, like, I don't know if this is even the word, but I'm trying to be really good about like imprinting things. So for the last probably 6 months, a little bit before I moved to Toronto, I started like, I don't have it on my hand right now, but an elastic. So if I think something really bad, I snap the elastic. I don't actually need the elastic as much anymore. It's probably why it's not on my hand, because I'm a lot better at just like, if, as opposed to saying, oh, I can't afford that right now, it's, I'm prioritizing other things right now, because there is this business, and I run my business all on cash because I just prefer it that way. And so cash flow sometimes comes up. And so as opposed to making myself feel bad about it, about not having the money to just go out for dinner, but I'll have the money when someone's deposit arrives, it all works out. If you're working hard, you're good at what you do, you give value to your clients, and you put yourself out there. I truly believe if you do all of those things consistently, you'll be successful at some point. I mean, again, if you have 10 hours to put in or 25 hours, that of course determine at which pace. But I also just am really good about remembering that I just got here. There's going to be times where I feel like, oh my gosh, is anyone going to book next week? But usually when I have that feeling, it's like a Tuesday. And by Friday, the full next week is booked. You know what I mean? So it's, again, just working in process continually and just working, fortune favors the brave. So
Absolutely. And so how do you divide your time between marketing your business and actually working in your business?
So I usually take one day if possible. Sometimes it's just not possible to take one day, so I put it on the weekend. But one day of like 3.5, 4 hours, where I put together all of the posts that I'm going to do in mom groups. I figure out if I'm going to be networking that following week. If not, I sort of reach out to people just who I maybe have made connections with, just to see what's up. Old clients that haven't booked in a bit, just to see, hey, how's it going? Do you want to book in? I have some availability. Give them the dates. And then, yeah, I just like try and really like, the thing is now, because of all of the work that I've put in, it's pretty consistent as far as like inquiries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not having to go out necessarily to network every single week like I was before. With that said, I'm a person that believes you should always have your pipeline full. So I'm always working and putting people on wait lists if that's the case, or, just saying like, I'm full next week, but if you want to book in the following week, which I like to do too, just to like keep it all going.
Mm-hmm. And so how do you see this business growing and evolving? Because you're one person and obviously there's only 24 hours in a day. And so if you're booked out, like what's the vision?
So this is actually so recent, but I had 3 people in the course of like 3 weeks ask me for help just building the foundation of their private chef business, how they go about pricing. So one lady was like, I will pay you money to help me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then another girl was like, I will pay you money to help me. And again, my stepdad, as wise as he is, was like, it's time that you go from making money from what you do to making money from what you know. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of what I'm transitioning into, and just sort of marking down all of the things that I do, because I do them so unconsciously a lot. I just get up and put together Facebook posts, or I, do a few outreach.
You're systematizing your business.
Yeah. So now I'm trying to like go back and see like, okay, so I sent this email and to a client that was like this. I sent this email to a client like that was like this, and sort of then sharing that with the 2 women who I'm also helping support now too. So that's how I'm going to scale. I could get an assistant, but I kind of prefer where it's going in terms of the coaching, but also still working with clients one-on-one too.
That's amazing. Oh, I feel like we could talk all day. This is amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience? Things that have worked for you, mindset tips that you have for people?
I think it's really important to fill your mind with good things. And as much as I love music, I used to be a DJ. In the mornings when I'm like en route to work, I always listen to like personal development, business development. I'm always listening to how other industries do it, personal trainers, how, life coaches, just like how other people are building their businesses. Because I think a lot of times we think, well, that's a different kind of business. That might not work for me, but business is business. And so you can learn from all different aspects and different types of businesses and implement that into my own. So I try and do that, and then also just like making sure that I take time for me. So like weekends, because when I worked in the Vitality Kitchen, weekends were always spoken for. Every day was spoken for. So now at least one weekend day, I try to just completely shut off, go hang out with my friends, drink on a patio, whatever the case is, just to have some like me time in it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And because you mentioned the coaching piece, I know there's probably a bunch of people watching who are going to want to get a hold of you. So what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
So I actually started a new podcast. It's called How to Be a Private Chef.
Nice.
And so you can find that on my website, biancaosbourne.com, or I'm just waiting for the podcast to be accepted into iTunes before I change the domain. But it's howtobecomeaprivatechef.squarespace.com, and all of the information is there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you reached out to us and that we got to have this chat. This was amazing.
I've been following you for years, so this was very exciting for me.
Awesome. Well, I wish you, I don't even need to wish. I know it's going to have massive success. Thank you so much for sharing your insider trade secrets. And we'll definitely link to your podcast and we'll link to your website. So for those of you who want to learn from Bianca on how to grow your private chef business. And one thing we didn't get to talk about were the cooking classes, but I'm sure she can shed some light on that as well.
For sure.
And that's it. Thanks everybody so much for watching, and we will talk to you again soon. Have a good day.